The 2025-26 season is officially over. The World Cup is officially over. And the biggest individual award in football is about to be handed out. The Ballon d'Or 2026. But this year, there is no clear favorite. Not one single name that everyone agrees on. Depending on which voter you talk to, the winner could be one of 10 completely different players. That is what makes this the most unpredictable Ballon d'Or race in over a decade. This channel tracked every single Champions League tie, every single World Cup match, every single title race across Europe this season. And after breaking down every candidate, the full ranking is ready. In the next few minutes, you're going to see the top 10 favorites for the 2026 Ballon d'Or, ranked from the bottom of the list all the way up to the number 1 contender. Do not skip ahead. Position number 3 is going to surprise you. And the name at number 1 is not the same name most people would have picked 6 months ago. Before we start, there is something important to say. In World Cup years, the Ballon d'Or changes. It becomes a different award. Club numbers still matter, but the memory of the tournament takes over. And tournament memory is powerful. It happened in 2022, when Messi lifted the trophy and won the award months later. It also happened the opposite way in 2010, when Iniesta scored the winning goal in the World Cup final for Spain, and the Ballon d'Or still went to Messi. Messi, who had won nothing with Argentina and had not scored a single goal at that tournament. So the World Cup guarantees nothing, but it is never ignored either. This year, Spain won the World Cup. Rodri was named the best player of the tournament. Kane scored 73 goals for club and country. Yamal is only 19 years old and just lifted the trophy with Spain. Kvaratskhelia broke Champions League records that had never been broken before. Every single one of these names has a real case. And every single one of these names has a hole in that case. That is exactly why this ranking exists. If you have been arguing with friends about who deserves the award, you are in the right place. If you think the debate has one obvious answer, this video is going to change your mind. If you love watching the numbers get broken down, stay until the end because the last 3 names are the ones the entire football world is fighting over right now. Hit the like button, subscribe to the channel, and let's start the ranking from number 10 down to number 1. Number 10 on the list. Pau Cubarsí, a 19-year-old center-back who just walked away from the World Cup with the trophy for Best Young Player of the tournament. Cubarsí is not on this list by accident, because the World Cup matters this year, and he was the anchor of the best defense of the entire competition. Spain conceded only 1 goal in 8 matches at this World Cup. Only 1. In 8 games. Against the best attacks on the planet. And Cubarsí was in the middle of every single one of those clean sheets. His pace on recoveries, his positioning against faster forwards, his line-breaking passes out of the back. This was not a passenger on a great team. This was a co-author of it. Beyond the World Cup, he finished the club season with Barcelona lifting La Liga and the Spanish Super Cup. 26 clean sheets on the year. 1 goal. 2 assists. Numbers that are absurd for a teenager who was barely a first-team regular 2 seasons ago. He has already done something rare. Slipping into a Ballon d'Or list at 19 as a defender, in a competition that is almost always exclusive to goal scorers. The ceiling is limited. Defenders rarely finish in the top 5 of this award, but the fact that he is on the list at all is a statement about how good he already is. Number 9. Khvicha Kvaratskhelia. Kvaratskhelia was probably the best player of the entire knockout stage of the 2026 Champions League. He did something that had never been done before. He scored or assisted in 7 consecutive Champions League knockout matches. 7 straight games. A run that stopped the sport in its tracks, including performances against Chelsea, Liverpool, and Bayern Munich that dragged PSG into the final when it looked impossible. In total, across 56 matches for club and country, Kvaratskhelia produced 23 goals and 10 assists on the season. And with the club, the trophy cabinet is stacked. Champions League, Ligue 1, French Super Cup, UEFA Super Cup, Intercontinental Cup. 5 trophies in a single season. It looks perfect, but there is one enormous hole in the case for Kvaratskhelia. Georgia did not qualify for the World Cup. In a World Cup year, that is almost a death sentence for this award. Kvaratskhelia was unbelievable at club level, but he was completely absent from the stage that carries the most weight in the voters' minds in 2026. He is not just competing with the players who played at the World Cup. He is competing with an entire month of tournament memories that the whole planet watched live. Realistically, this is as high as he can climb. Number 8. Erling Haaland. Haaland ended the 2025-26 season with 65 appearances, 58 goals, and 11 assists across club and country. At Manchester City, he lifted the FA Cup and the League Cup. But the real story of his season was not at City. It was what he did for Norway. He dragged the Norwegian national team back to a World Cup after 28 years of absence. 28 years. And the qualifying campaign was historic. Haaland scored 16 goals in 8 matches during qualifying. He was the top scorer of the entire UEFA group stage. He scored in every single one of Norway's qualifiers. 5 goals and 2 assists in a single 11-1 rout of Moldova. A hat-trick against Israel. At the World Cup itself, Norway did not go there to make up the numbers. In 5 matches, Haaland scored 7 goals, including 2 goals against Brazil to send Norway into the World Cup quarterfinals for the first time in their entire history. It was a headline that stopped the tournament. The problem is that City did not win the Premier League. City did not win the Champions League. And Norway lost in the quarterfinals to England, and in that match, Haaland was invisible. The Ballon d'Or has confusing criteria, but the absence of a Champions League or a domestic league title, combined with a quiet exit game, hurts him. He is on the list because the goals and the individual campaign for Norway are too big to ignore. But number 8 is where he lands. Number 7. Ousmane Dembélé. Dembélé is the current holder of the Ballon d'Or, and he arrived at 2026 with another enormous campaign behind him. 48 appearances, 25 goals, 14 assists across club and country. He lifted the Champions League, Ligue 1, the French Super Cup, the UEFA Super Cup, and the Intercontinental Cup with PSG. He disappeared during the Champions League group stage, but he showed up when it mattered most, in the knockout rounds. In the last 4 Champions League matches of the season, Dembélé scored 6 goals. 2 against Liverpool, 3 against Bayern Munich, and 1 in the final against Arsenal. Decisive at the most crucial moments of the entire season. At the World Cup, he was one of France's top scorers with 6 goals, including a hat-trick against Norway inside the first 32 minutes of the match. But Dembélé had 2 problems this year. First, injuries. They disrupted the start of his season and left the impression, fair or not, that he was below his best for months. Second, inside his own national team, he was overshadowed by Mbappé and Olise during the tournament. And France went out in the semi-final against Spain. Dembélé was not the protagonist for France the way he was for PSG. Repeat winners of this award are historically rare. And without a leading role in the biggest tournament of the year, he lands at number 7. Number 6. Rodri. Rodri did not have the best club season of his career. Not even close. He came back from a serious knee injury, went through ups and downs at Manchester City, and stayed a long way from the absurd level he showed in 2023 and 2024. 2 goals on the season. FA Cup and League Cup won with the club. But nothing close to the individual dominance he was showing before the injury. Then the World Cup arrived, and everything changed. Rodri was named the best player of the entire tournament. He was the brain of the Spain team that won it all. The player who controlled the tempo, protected the defense, accelerated when Spain needed to, and balanced the team in every single game they played. Spain conceded 1 goal in 8 matches. 1 goal. And Rodri was in the middle of every single passage of play where Spain needed control. His argument is the heaviest in terms of pure World Cup weight. What works against him is exactly what happened at the club. An uneven, injury-affected season at City. And the question voters are going to ask themselves is direct. Does one brilliant World Cup erase months of inconsistency at the club? Sometimes the answer is yes. In 2010, Iniesta scored the winning goal of the World Cup final for Spain. And the Ballon d'Or went to Messi anyway. Messi had not won a single trophy with Argentina that year. He had not even scored a goal at the tournament. He had roughly the same club trophies as Iniesta. So the World Cup does not always decide the vote. But Rodri is entering this race as one of the most serious candidates because the memory of the tournament is fresh, and the prize for Best Player of the World Cup carries enormous weight in the ballots. Number 5. Kylian Mbappé. In 58 matches across club and country, Mbappé scored 58 goals and provided 14 assists across the 2025-26 season. At the World Cup, he scored 10 goals and picked up the Golden Boot for the second consecutive tournament as the top scorer of the entire competition. The problem for Mbappé in this race is complicated, because individually, he was extraordinary. But Real Madrid did not win the big trophies that usually come attached to a serious Ballon d'Or candidate. No Champions League, no La Liga, and France went out in the semi-final against Spain. Mbappé is a World Cup player like almost no one else in this era. 2018, 2022, and now 2026. 3 consecutive World Cup campaigns of that level is a resume almost no one in history has ever built. 10 goals at this tournament. And on top of that, he passed the record for most goals in World Cup history, sitting now at 21 total goals across his career. That is a number that used to feel untouchable. But the Ballon d'Or rarely rewards its top scorer when he does not lift the biggest trophies. And Mbappé is now running the real risk that, even after a brilliant tournament, he still ends up outside the podium. Number 4. Michael Olise. Olise is probably the most interesting candidacy on this entire list, because he represents something completely different from every other name in the top 10. In 66 matches for club and country, Olise produced 26 goals and 41 assists across the 2025-26 season. Read that number again. 41 assists. In one single season, he lifted the Bundesliga, the German Cup, and the German Super Cup with Bayern Munich. And then he went to the World Cup for the first time in his career. And in his first World Cup, Olise was monstrous. He contributed 7 assists across the tournament. 7 assists. The all-time record for assists in a single World Cup edition. He broke the record that had been held by Pelé. And he powered the best attack of the entire competition. This is not just creativity. This is consistency, vision, timing of pass, and the ability to force his teammates into decisive positions. Olise was the reason France's attack functioned at the World Cup. More in some matches than even Mbappé. The problem is that in the semi-final against Spain, when France needed him most, he disappeared. Completely nullified. And France crashed out. The same thing happened with Bayern Munich in the Champions League knockout rounds. If the Ballon d'Or were awarded strictly on combined offensive production across an entire season, Olise would win comfortably. But the award is not just that. And he knows he is not one of the outright favorites. Number 3. Lionel Messi. One thing is certain. Messi has historically been favored when it comes to this award. In 2022, he won it after lifting the World Cup. And in 2026, he built a campaign that was, statistically, even better than 2022 in terms of tournament production. So he is one of the favorites again. Just not to the same degree. Because this year, Argentina did not win. He personally carried Argentina all the way to the final of the World Cup. And in the match where he could not perform, Argentina lost. At 39 years old, he scored 8 goals and provided 4 assists at the tournament. Extraordinary numbers for that age. And for Inter Miami in 2026, in 16 matches, he scored 13 goals and added 7 assists. But Argentina lost the World Cup final to Spain in a match where Messi was completely muted. In one single week, Messi lost the Golden Boot of the 2026 World Cup, the World Cup final itself, the record for most goals in World Cup history, and the award for best player of the tournament. For losses in 7 days. If Argentina had won, if Messi had scored in the final, his chances would be enormous. Instead, he had a huge tournament, but this time it will not be like 2022. Third place is where the numbers place him, and even that requires the voters to weigh individual brilliance over collective result. Number 2. Lamine Yamal. Yamal just turned 19 years old, and he finished the 2025-26 season with 55 appearances, 26 goals, and 21 assists across club and country. He won La Liga, the Spanish Super Cup, and of course the World Cup. He is the huge favorite in the betting markets. He is sitting at 55% on the code market projection. 55%. That is a landslide in the world of forecasting markets. And if he wins, he would be the first player under 21 years old to lift the Ballon d'Or in the entire history of the award. That alone would be historic. But there is one important detail that could cost him. At the World Cup, Spain won with a historic campaign. But the player who was named best of the tournament was Rodri. The player who was named best young player of the tournament was Cubarsí. Yamal was there. He was important. He gave real contributions. But he did not put a dominant individual signature on the tournament in the way many people expected him to. He did not have that one huge individual moment. He helped the team, but he was not the outright protagonist. That does not eliminate him from the race. But it does mean a very specific narrative has to be built to hand him the award. The narrative of the future of football is already here versus the narrative of the man who actually won the World Cup for his country. Voters are going to have to choose between story and impact. And number 1. Harry Kane, 64 matches, 73 goals, 8 assists on the season across club and country. Harry Kane won the Bundesliga, the German Cup, and the German Super Cup. He scored 6 goals at the World Cup for England, who reached the semi-final before being eliminated. If the Ballon d'Or were purely a statistical award for the season, Kane would win without a single argument. 73 goals is a number that has no precedent for an elite forward in top-level European football this decade. Kane spent his entire career being underrated for not winning trophies. Then he moved to Bayern. He won trophies, and he never stopped scoring goals. He went from being the best striker without silverware to the best striker with silverware, and with absurd goal numbers on top of it. At the World Cup, he scored 6 goals for England and took direct responsibility in the matches that mattered, including a 2-goal performance under enormous pressure. England reached the semi-final, lost to Argentina, and were eliminated. In the Champions League, Bayern went out to eventual champions PSG, and Kane finished the competition as the second top scorer, behind only Mbappé. But in a World Cup year, everything is weighed differently. England did not win the tournament. They went far. Kane has the numbers. He has the club titles. He had a respectable World Cup. And that is why he sits at number 1 on this list of favorites for the 2026 Ballon d'Or. There are a lot of candidates, and the 2026 Ballon d'Or still does not have a locked name. But for you watching this right now, who deserves to win the prize? Drop your own ranking in the comments and tell me. If you enjoyed the breakdown, hit the like button, subscribe to the channel so you do not miss the next one, and I will see you in the next video.